What do characters like Superman, Batman, Iron Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, The Flash, and many other characters in both Marvel and DC Comics have in common? The majority of them were created before black people had the right to vote in this country. Welcome to my safe haven. So this is gonna be a conversation. So I was just sitting here thinking to myself right before I made this video, part of the reason that there is so much backlash when things like Bobby Drake Iceman comes out of the closet as gay, Jane Foster takes on the mantle of Thor, Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, we get a new person taking on the mantle of Iron Fist that's going to be of Asian descent, and a whole bunch of other things like Jonathan Kent and Tim Drake coming out as bi, etc., etc. There's so much backlash because comics aren't allowed to evolve. Because like I said, when the majority of these characters that we know and love were created, this was a completely different country. Jim Crow was still the law of the land. Women didn't have the right to open up a bank account without their husband's permission until like 1975. And so because of that, the vast majority of these characters that we know and love are straight white men, even white women as well, because that's what the industry catered to, and even still caters to this day. But the problem is society is changing. Society has changed. People that didn't have rights now. People that didn't have a voice now. People that didn't have political power have political power now. But the problem when it comes to DC and Marvel is, yes, they try to evolve with the times, but everything has to return back to the status quo at some point. And the status quo in Marvel and DC is very white. And so sure, you might get a temporary moment where a Nightwing or a Tim Drake will take over as Batman, but at the end of the day, it always has to return back to Bruce Wayne. Sam Wilson might temporarily take over as Captain America in the comics, but at the end of the day, it will always have to return back to Steve Rogers. Riri Williams might temporarily take over the Invincible Iron Man book, but at the end of the day, it was always going to go back to Tony Stark. And that's also how you get things, as I mentioned plenty of times before, the majority of the Omega level mutants are straight white men, and even women. Storm is the only non-white one, and Bobby Drake is the only queer one. And that's one thing about the MCU as an example that I enjoy, because they're forced to evolve more than the comics because actors age out or they get tired of playing the same role. So Steve Rogers will never be Captain America anymore because Chris Evans is done unless they decide to reboot or he comes back in a minor role. But Captain America is Sam Wilson. Eventually, he's going to pass it on to somebody else. Riri Williams is the new Iron Man, etc., etc. If Marvel and DC were created today, it would not be as straight and white as it currently is. Comics need to evolve because the audience has.